Welcome back, guys. In today's video, we left all the store-bought baits at home and we are throwing only hand-poured baits from 3 different sources, and we get to see how they perform and how well they do today. It's not going to be like a this versus that. It's going to be more of let's just catch some fish and put some time in on these different style grubs made by 3 different people and see how we like them. At the end of this video, I will go over who makes these, what I feel about them, and we'll do a recap of how we did today. In terms of conditions, we are looking at a peak low tide right now at 7:30 this morning, and then we are fishing all incoming tide today. Probably not to the peak high tide because that's going to be a long time from now, but we're also looking, if you check out surf-forecast.com, very valuable resource, you'll see that the wave power is very mild today, which it's under 200. I feel like anything in the 500 zone, just be careful because you might get those sweeper waves. Anything over that, probably like in the 800, 900, I just stay home. But today it's under 200, so we're good to go. It's gonna be a fun day. Hope you guys enjoy. Again, at the end of the video, I'll go over these baits, who makes them, and what I think. Let's fish. All right, guys, I am all rigged up, and this is gonna be the first grub that I start with. We'll call this one Bait A. All the baits today will be paddle tail style, and we're gonna put them on this size 3 hook. Go ahead and thread that one on. If you guys have seen my previous videos, I like to point the hook tail down because when that bait's swimming through the water, the weight of the hook is going to be pointing it down anyway. So we'll go ahead and thread that guy on there. So we'll give this some time. We'll throw this paddle tail right here. That's what it looks like. This one again is going to be Bait A. Water's looking much nicer than it has for the last couple weeks. Last couple weeks it's been red tide out here, so hopefully that extra water clarity will help us in this experiment. First cast with Bait A. Today I'm using the Quantum Reliance 4000 with the Okuma Hawaiian Custom. Looking at a 10'6" or 10'7" rod, and it's really got that classic salmon rod where it's got a really nice bend to it. Oh, I got bit. Might have a little fish on, but I got bit. Second cast, got bit. Got another bite. Yep, tail's missing. Bait A has a tail missing officially. I think it's a matter of needing a bigger hook, maybe a size 2. I'm using a size 3 for this. I'm gonna do one more Bait A because that was probably the 12th cast or so, and I got a couple bites, but just the last one was a tail stealer, and I definitely felt it. So we'll go ahead and grab another Bait A and put it on and see if we can't actually land it. But I think this time I'm gonna go ahead and thread my hook a little farther down the body. All right, we'll see if that helps, if that's any better. Got another couple small taps on it. There's a fish. There's a fish on Bait A. We'll see what today brings. Hopefully we get to see some good sized fish, but doesn't seem like the big ones have been in thick for a while. Oh, there it goes, fell off. That was a small fish. But that's what we might see today. We might just see a bunch of squeakers. There's a fish. Ah, he came off again. Wow. Bait still has its tail, that's good. But Bait A is definitely getting some action. Might just be a matter of how aggressive the perch are today, or also the size hook compared to the longer body of this bait. But there's fish here. Yep. Another tail bitten off. Bait A, another tail bitten off. It's probably because there's a lot of small fish in the area. But we might revisit this. Let's try a different bait now. All right, this is bait B. You might recognize it from the channel. Threw this a while back, but let's give this a go. Maybe a better size for this size 3 hook in terms of overall length of this bait. So we'll go ahead and thread her on and see how we do. Again, same paddle tail style, same general color in terms of motor oil red flake. We'll tie that on or thread that on and see how we do. It's got the same type of pointy tail with the paddle tail. Bait B, here we go. Got the tail bitten off of bait A a couple times, but taking a closer look at bait B, you will notice that there's meat leading up to the tail pretty good. So it should be a little bit better theoretically when it comes to those short strikes. Getting hit on the first cast. Got one. First cast. Make sure he's still on. I lost a few already. Yep, there he goes, little guy. But bait B got its first victim on the first cast. That's all right. But yeah, the point of this video is mainly to show you guys there's other options other than going store-bought. I remember stories my dad would tell me when they would go to the hardware store to buy their baits. They would go and buy up all of them, and they just have a storehouse of all these baits, and it seems like not much has changed. If you find something good that you like, make sure you have multiple packs on hand. So hopefully with this video, you guys may find a bait or bait maker that you've never heard of before. Give it a shot, you never know. You might find your next best bait for whatever your area presents. There's one. That's a decent fish too. Gotta keep the pressure on him. Yeah, a wild one. First fish comes on bait B. Not the biggest, but that's the grade that's been biting tails off and getting those missed strikes on bait A. Definitely not the quality that dreams are made of, but still a fun fight. We'll keep bait B on until we lose the tail, and then we'll swap to bait C and see how we do. Yep, tail biter got to bait B. Let's move on to bait C, and if we have a lot of time, we'll revisit A, B, C again. The maker of bait C actually sent like a few different styles. Sent grubs, sent bigger paddle tails that would probably take a size 1 hook. Sent like a variety pack. But this is bait C. That's what it looks like. Slender profile. And I'll tell you more about it at the end when I go over all the baits. But let's try to get bit. String it right up to that tail almost. That way, even if we do get short strikes, we might still have a chance. There you go, bait C. See how we do. That incoming tide's definitely rolling in. So hopefully that helps the bite. Gets these fish a little bit more active with that current. There's a fish. Fish on bait C. Definitely not a big one. But he wanted it. Yeah, again, we've had a red tide for the last couple weeks. And maybe it'll just take a little bit of time before those big ones come swimming back and visiting us. But for now, These little guys will have to do. Bait C is getting some love. Just missed another fish right now. Let's bring it in, examine it. Looks all right. Let's recast. You know what I just realized? I just realized that these people who make these baits represent California really well. One bait is from Southern California, or one Baitmaker is from Southern California. Another Baitmaker is from more Northern California, and another Baitmaker is right here in our area, Central Coast California. So that's pretty cool. Bait still looks good. Missed a couple bites right now. Big swell came in, and during that big swell I got a couple really good takes, but we didn't get the hook. There's a fish. Another fish on bait C. Little guy on bait C. Yeah, that might be all that's in here, but I'm gonna keep on fishing. You never know. You never know when a big one might bite. All right, I moved spots, and even if bait C still has its tail, I'm gonna go back to bait A and give that some throws. There's a fish. Ooh, it's a nice one. Nicer. Best pull all day so far on bait A. Yep, ate it. First fish actually brought in on bait A. And the tail stayed on, so let's keep on throwing it. I gave that fish just a little second longer to eat it. As soon as I felt that initial tap, I gave it a pause. And then the rod loaded up on itself, so that was the strategy on that fish. It's really key to understand what it is you're throwing, and when you know that your hook is farther up the body on that bait, you're gonna want to give that fish a little bit of extra time to move it into its mouth. But if they were big ones and they were smashing it, it really doesn't matter. But we don't have that today. There's a fish. Another fish on bait A. Seems like the hookup percentage is getting better as the tide comes in. It's about 2 hours past peak low tide. So these holes are starting to fill in, and these fish are starting to bite. Even if they're not giants, they're starting to bite. There's another one. All right. Another fish on bait A. Might have come off, but it's not very, it wasn't very big. All right. Let's go back to bait B. This will be the second time around. Normally when you guys are fishing, you're just gonna leave the bait on until you can't fish it anymore. But in this case, we're gonna keep on cycling out and getting experience on all three baits. So we're going to bait B. Back to bait B. There's a fish. Another fish on bait B. Took a little while, but conditions are changing real fast. Tide's coming up pretty quick. It's actually a pretty steep change in tide. Wow. Tiny fish. They're so cute at this age. All right, I had a tail biter on bait B. Time to go to bait C. All right, bait C going out. There's a fish. There's a fish on C. It's feeling like the best one of the day so far. Ah, never mind. It was just spinning in the water. Oh boy. Sometimes they'll catch water and like keep spinning and it feels like you have a big fish, but it's actually a small one like this. Does that ever happen to you guys? Yeah. Wow. Another little guy. Man, after all these dinks that you guys have seen me catch today, I feel like you guys might want to see some giants. So I'm gonna leave a link up here to a video where it was just big perch after big perch after big perch when we first started throwing the Kalisa. Check that video out if you guys want to see some big perch. Ooh. I just put bait A back on. I was gonna call it, but I figure I'd fish a little bit longer. Ooh. Sadly, this is the biggest one of the day actually, and it got inhaled. Bait A is gone. Way in its mouth. All right. Before we share what these baits are, we're also going to leave the links to their Instagram handles. That way you guys can message them and get these baits for yourself if you are interested. So let's start with bait A. Bait A is the newest of these bait makers, and he's actually from the Central Coast. His name is JR, and what really stood out with his bait was the attention to detail. You have eyes, gills, fins, and it has a ribbed body all the way down to that boot tail, but it is a very slender profile, and this next tip is going to apply to all three of the baits really, is with that paddle tail, you have this thin area of soft plastic, and your hook doesn't go all the way to the end. So give that fish a few extra moments to really inhale the bait, let your rod tip load up. That's how you know that the fish doesn't just have the tail, it has the whole bait in its mouth. Don't just set the hook when you feel that small tick. But overall, I like the profile and the details of this bait. Bait B is the most established of these bait makers. This one is by the Honey Badger. He's from down south, and this bait is very popular. It has a thicker body all the way through compared to JR's bait, and it actually also has that point after the boot tail, and these bait makers are actually friends, and you can tell that JR borrowed that from the Honey Badger. So these are really nice baits. Also, they do work really well, but I like the fact that the dense plastic is a lot thicker all the way through and not much room between the body and the tail, so it should minimize the amount of tail grabs and pulling that tail off. But it definitely performs, has good detail too, like the eyes and the ribs, and it even has these little dots on the bottom just like a little grub. So like this bait too. And last but not least, Waxsmith baits. And it's a really simple, straightforward design, still has ribs. It's got that bait fish profile, but it is in that 2-inch zone. So it's really an effective bait as well. But one special thing that Waxsmith does is he uses a denser soft plastic. So it's a tougher material. You can actually tell when you're pulling your hook through that bait, there's a lot more resistance than most other soft plastics that you've probably thrown in the past. So that's something that I really like about this as well. But overall, all three baits caught fish. If you guys, again, are interested in these baits, definitely click on their Instagram handles below, send them a message, tell them you saw their baits on Hook to Cook, and they will hook you up, get these sent right to your door. A lot of fun, and looking forward to throw these again. And if you guys want to see how I set up my Carolina rig, I'm going to go ahead and leave a video right here. I did do an episode where we set up rigs to throw these kinds of baits, from rods, reels, line, all the way down to what size hook, what length leader, and that was definitely a good how-to video. But thank you for watching. We'll catch you guys on the next one.